Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a live happening right here in the heart of the all-American city. You are looking at a live helicopter shot of the top of a gigantic mushroom of balloons to be released at 2 p.m.
One morning in the fall of September 1986, there was an incredible mass of balloons hovering on a net over the city of Cleveland, Ohio. It was part of a massive fundraising event known as BalloonFest, and the plan was to release all the balloons over the city in a spectacular display of rubber and primary colors. And spectacular it would be indeed, as would its consequences. Before we get there though, how did this event come to be? BalloonFest was organized by the nonprofit United Way of Greater Cleveland, a charity organization with the goal of, quote, empowering citizens to help break the cycle of poverty, unquote. BalloonFest was conceived as a way to not only raise money for United Way, but also as a publicity stunt to draw media attention to the charity and the city of Cleveland by breaking a Guinness World Record. Tom Hollowich, the project manager of the event, said that the event was quite an ordeal to organize.
I worked on it for 6 months and lived in Cleveland for a month preparing for it. We had to design a structure this filled a city square and could stand up to 90-mile-per-hour winds, which was building code. The one-piece net was fabricated by the exact company I found in Southern California who built the cargo nets for the space shuttle.
So how exactly did this even raise money? The apparent truth is that through a variety of means, including having school children go door-to-door like Girl Scouts selling cookies, United Way volunteers would sell quote-unquote balloon sponsorships, which meant that for every dollar donated, 2 balloons would be added to the eventual pile. It's estimated that before the launch, the campaign raised around $700,000, leading to that gargantuan rubber mass hovering over Cleveland to consisting of around 1.4 million balloons, which took a lot of volunteer manpower to blow up.
The balloon that we're inside is 4 stories high, 200 feet wide by 200 feet long, and they have been blown up by all these Greater Cleveland students here in Cleveland. And I have a student right here, and what's your name?
Annette.
Annette, and how long have you been here since?
Since 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock this morning?
Yes.
Okay, and about how many kids have been here?
2,500.
2,500 kids?
And then, it was almost time for the launch. There was an issue, however. The day before, there were some incredibly strong storms in the Cleveland area, storms that caused some of the balloons to release prematurely and threatened to strike again soon. Instead of postponing the event and risking the weather causing a premature release of all the balloons, officials opted instead to release the balloons earlier in the day than the previously planned 2 p.m. It was a small hiccup, but everything seemed to be going to plan. And then, it began.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here they go.
Take it away, liftoff.
Amazing. And the far end is up, and there they go, John.
The Guinness Book of World Records has just been broken in Cleveland. Over 1,500,000 balloons going up in the air at this very, very moment. Look at the cloud below. We did it!
We did it, John. There it goes.
It was a brilliant sight to see for about 30 seconds. Then, the problem started. For all of the thought that went into the event, 6 months of planning, several weeks of selling balloons, and hours spent inflating the balloons, even the shift in schedule to avoid the weather, it seemed that all that thought didn't go past the moment of the launch itself. That weather part is key because while it's true that future weather could have prematurely set off the launch, the cold front from the storms the day before was still there, and it prevented the balloons from simply rising off into the distance.
After looking back at the weather conditions that were present leading up to the balloon launch, there was no way they should have launched those balloons,
said Fox 8 meteorologist Scott Sabal.
The front which came in was right out of the north and had a history of producing severe weather.
And now, there were 1.4 million balloons in the city of Cleveland, with everywhere to go, except up. The most immediate place the balloons became a problem was the streets of Cleveland itself.
We drove down the showway and it was like a multicolored river down the road. Motorists were running into each other, running into fences,
said Fox 8's Neil Zurcher, who covered the event.
Then Burke Lakefront Airport was even more of a mess. The runway was covered with balloons.
Zurcher wasn't exaggerating. The Cleveland Police Department logged several car crashes during the event, caused by drivers being distracted and having their vision obscured by the multicolored mass invading the streets. As for the airport, all flights were shut down for at least 30 minutes because of the trouble the balloons were causing. The balloons' toxic influence reached outside of the city as well, with the millions of balloons drifting over the countryside, at one point spooking some Arabian horses in Medina County, Ohio, causing the horses injuries. Perhaps the most tragic consequence, however, was the rescue mission that was impeded. The storms from the night before had done more than just create a cold front. They also capsized a boat, leaving Raymond Broderick and Bernard Souls, the two fishermen on the boat, stranded out in the water. Coast Guard searches started the same day as the launch, but due to the sheer amount of balloons in the air and in the water, the Coast Guard couldn't get anywhere.
I caught the guy flying the Coast Guard helicopter, and he said it was like flying through an asteroid belt. You couldn't see. And the balloons on the water looked like heads.
The Coast Guard ended up having to postpone their search until after the balloons had cleared up, which wasn't for several days, and in that time, the bodies of the two men washed up on shore. The most visibly obvious aftermath of the event was environmental. Balloons littered the ground and the water for miles around, extending even as far as Canada. For some reason, the organizers of the event seemed to think that the balloons would, quote, evaporate in the atmosphere, unquote, which is the kind of strong leading intellect that explains a lot of the damage caused during the event. It was especially bad within Cleveland, with the Shoreway Highway having to have a bulldozer come in and push out all the balloons. According to local legend, if you look hard enough, you can still find balloons in the city streets, left over from the nearly 40-year-old disaster. The financial cost was also severe. Putting aside the money spent on the cleanup and on repairing the property damage, United Way of Greater Cleveland was sued not only by the families of the fishermen who drowned, but also by the owner of those Arabian horses, with the total damages potentially coming to $3.3 million. Both cases were settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, but the damage was done. The event was a net loss for United Way and a PR disaster.
There is nothing positive to say about this event, no matter how well intended,
said Augie Napoli, the current president and CEO of the United Way of Greater Cleveland, when asked about the event in 2021.
Happily, however, we have evolved beyond gimmicks to shine a bright light on the causes and effects of poverty on so many in our community, and to encourage the community to respond as they have for over 100 years through their gifts of understanding, engagement, and love.
There was one small silver lining. The event set out to earn the world record for the largest balloon release ever. It did just that, though it also had the unintended consequence of ensuring that Guinness wouldn't ever measure environmentally disastrous events like this in the future. And considering the aftermath of this event, that was likely for the best.